Thanks, Keith. Good morning, everybody. As Keith mentioned, I am with Celebrity Cruises, and I'm actually Keith's sales manager with Celebrity Cruises. And I've been with the company almost 30 years, and Celebrity's been around for almost 31. So I have a good history with the company.
What do we do now?
Well, thank you, Nancy, and I'm looking forward to your presentation today. I know you've got some beautiful slides to share with us.
Yeah, I was just
And
looking for rock.
I think what I'm going to go ahead now is go ahead and mute
I think he's
everyone.
checking inventory or something.
I can figure out how to do that.
Um,
Vicki, are you able to mute everyone? All right. So again, thank you all for joining me this morning and taking this time to learn a little bit more about what's happening with travel. Today, our goal is to help you better understand how the pandemic has impacted travel and what to expect when you're ready to travel. To do that, we're going to cover a few slides to get started. The first thing we're going to do is an overview of the travel environment right now. I'm going to walk you through my best guess about kind of how travel is going to change over the next several months. Then we're going to share some great travel products that we hope you'll consider as you get ready to travel before we turn the mics back on and answer as many questions as we possibly can. Hopefully by now you're all familiar with the chat functionality that Zoom provides, and that if you have questions, I would invite you to please use the chat function to ask them, just as a way to make sure that that's all working and the technology is working for us. I wonder if you could all just use the chat function right now to say okay if you can hear me, or if you have a question, go ahead and type in the question now.
How do you send it? What do you hit?
You should just be able to type return.
The return key? Okay. Did it work?
Looks like the chats are coming in, so I think we're in pretty good shape. So to get us started here, the question I think we all have to understand is a lot of folks are saying we've turned the corner. And according to a recent poll, 53% of Americans see the disruptions due to COVID-19 lasting past the middle of this year. Now, clearly, the recent news has been very encouraging, and ultimately the vaccine should allow us to return to something close to what we had before the pandemic. However, the reality is that there are still lots of impacts and limitations due to the virus right now. What is becoming increasingly clear is that the answer to whether we've turned the corner or whether you're ready to travel depends very much on your specific circumstances. Some people are already traveling. In fact, I've got a booking that I'm doing right after this presentation today. But what I'm hearing from others is that you may not feel comfortable traveling until 2022 or beyond. What I want to talk with you today is just to make sure you understand whenever that time is for you to return, that you'll be ready and that you understand that things are going to continue to change. So let's talk a little bit about what has changed. Now, I think it's common knowledge that change is difficult for everyone. And we've all become familiar with the idea of local lockdowns or stay-at-home orders. But it's also true that many countries around the world have also locked their borders and currently don't allow visitors from America at all. You know, I think anyone who's lived through the last year has certainly seen the messages about wearing masks, about staying 6 feet apart, and washing our hands. But if you haven't traveled recently, you may not be fully aware of how airlines, hotels, restaurants, cruise lines, and other travel providers have also made extensive changes to to ensure that you and their employees are safe. One other big change in the travel industry has to do with capacity controls. In most cases, regulations or concerns for guest safety or simple economics have caused guest capacity to be way down from a year ago. And depending on how quickly the demand returns, this is likely to significantly impact our ability to travel, or at least get the vacation deal that we want at the price we want in the near future. Which brings me to a topic that I think is near and dear to several of your hearts, which is travel vouchers. You know, I've spent as much time canceling trips as booking trips over the last year, and lots of people are holding travel vouchers. Most of those vouchers have expiration dates, and those expiration dates are going to create tremendous pressure to rebook over the next 12 months. You combine that with the general public's desire to get away, and we're going to have a bubble where there simply isn't going to be enough supply to meet demand. You may have heard that at the end of January, the CDC issued new orders requiring anyone returning to the US to have a negative test before boarding their flight. This could spell disaster for any traveler who tests positive and hasn't purchased travel insurance or otherwise planned for the costs. So if everyone, sorry, my assistant, my lovely wife Vicky, has said that we're getting some questions in the chat line. Again, for those of you who are joining us late, just to try and get through the presentation portion of this as quickly as possible, if you could enter your questions into the chat box, I'll try and deal with all the questions and leave plenty of time at the end to answer them. So what I was trying to do here really quickly was just to highlight some of the things that have changed. And one of those is that we're continuing to see fairly frequent changes out of the CDC and other regulatory bodies, and that those can have huge implications. If you find yourself flying into a country and testing positive, you may be denied boarding, denied entry, and turned around. If you test positive or you don't have a test, you may be denied boarding on your return trip. If you contract the disease while you're traveling, you may well find yourself having to quarantine for 14 days at your cost. In each country and in many of the resorts within those countries, the policies are different. And so the bottom line here really is, while travel is certainly possible right now, it pays to do your research, to really do the investigative work before you leave, to know exactly what to expect. The last thing on this list, which some of you may not have heard about, is vaccination passports. These are actually an old idea with a new twist to help safeguard each country from visitors who might bring COVID to their citizens. You will likely now need to show proof that you have been vaccinated before you're allowed to enter the country. Several companies are scrambling to create applications for your smartphone, but it's too early to tell which countries will accept which applications. And even some of the airlines are now using this technology, but they don't yet all agree. So again, it's a matter of being sure before you travel, you know what to expect. We're going in the wrong direction. Nancy, would you like to share a little bit about what Carnival Cruise, terrible misspoke, Celebrity Cruise Lines is doing?
Absolutely. Everyone's celebrity, and as you may not know, we're part of what's known as Royal Caribbean Group. All of our companies as a whole, we went out and put together the Healthy Return to Service panel. So we reached out to a bunch of experts that are working hand in hand and keeping in touch with the CDC and other organizations to make sure that when we do go back into the water, we're doing it in the best possible position for everyone's health and safety. And that includes our crew on board. And then, of course, you are a very important guest as you board the ship. At this point in time, we haven't really announced any protocols because we put this panel together back in July of last year. They've been working all this time, but it seems like every week or every other week, something has changed. So we won't announce exactly what our protocols are going to be until we're ready to announce back in the water. And hopefully that'll be coming sooner rather than later, because we would love nothing more than to enjoy having all of you sail on board our ships. Back to you, Keith.
Thank you, Nancy. So let's talk a little bit about where we stand right now. This is a recent map from the CDC, and as is so often the case, the reddish color indicates where the pandemic is still very, very active, and it also is a pretty good indication of where restrictions are in place. And the picture clearly isn't pretty. Despite that fact, many people, myself included, traveling is in our blood. And so despite the risks, traveling is taking place right now. And because so many countries have closed their borders to Americans, travel within America has taken off. Much of that travel today is by car rather than by air. People are staying in RVs, cabins, motels, Airbnbs, and other places where they can feel a sense of isolation and safety. Masks and outdoor dining, extra cleaning, capacity controls are still very much the norm. And again, some of the things might surprise you, or if you haven't been traveling. Meals on the airlines are largely missing at this point in time due to safety concerns. If you were to go to a hotel, you might be interested to find that swimming pools are typically open, but hot tubs are typically closed. But it depends on each of the destinations. The borders to Mexico and Canada, our nearest neighbors, are closed to ground transportations. But for some reason, I'm not fully sure I understand, it's not okay to drive into Mexico, but it's okay to fly into Mexico. And many guests from America are taking advantage of the all-inclusive resorts, which quite frankly have done a wonderful job of establishing enhanced safety protocols. So the bottom line is travel is taking place right now, but each destination has a slightly different set of capabilities and restrictions, and it really comes down to making sure you're doing your homework before you go. I thought I would give you kind of a perspective from one of the major providers. The slide you're looking at right now comes from Delta Airlines, and it gives you some specific examples of how they're advising their clients. Delta tries to simplify what is truly a quite complex picture. And so they break it into first US destinations and then international destinations. And they talk about kind of what's open. In other words, what's almost back to normal. And then they have places that are open but with restrictions. And then they have places that they claim are restricted or closed. So if you look at their list, and I know it might be difficult to read on some of your screens, places like Las Vegas and Florida are examples of places that are largely open right now with few restrictions and in some cases, fairly loose enforcement of safety measures. So it's, again, it comes down to common sense. Do we all want to be able to go and enjoy, a restaurant or a bar or an amusement park? Of course. Do you feel safe doing so? It depends on probably your age and your vaccination status and your risk tolerance. The Hawaiian Islands have been a really interesting to watch as a travel advisor because it's part of America. Americans love to travel to Hawaii, but each one of the islands adopted slightly different standards for who could travel and what the protocols were when you arrived. And so, for example, it's easier to travel to the Big Island than it is to Kauai. And those are pretty typical of where we are, and it almost changes on a daily basis. New York City, California are a couple of examples of very popular destinations, but areas that got very hard hit during the crisis. and so they tend to be a little bit more restrictive, and traveling there requires a little bit more diligence. If we look internationally, the options are right now a little bit more limited. Most of Europe, for example, is still closed to Americans. Places like Australia and New Zealand are still closed. But there are exceptions. As I talked about before, Mexico, at least many of the most popular tourist areas in Mexico, remain open. The Caribbean islands, not all of them, but many of the Caribbean islands have remained open. And again, the resorts there have taken a leadership position in adopting the enhanced safety procedures. Eastern Europe, there are places in Eastern Europe which are not necessarily considered at the top of most people's destinations, but are beautiful places which have opened early with some restrictions. We talked earlier about digital passports. Israel has been a pioneer in the vaccinations, and now they're a pioneer in these digital vaccination passports. So travel is possible, but it is very much dependent on where you want to go and kind of what you want to see. For those of you who know me, you know that I'm a bit of a nerd, and so no presentation would be complete if I didn't have at least some mathematical chart in it. I use this because my experience is history is often a very good predictor of what's going to happen in the future. And what's almost certainly going to happen over the next, call it 6 to 12 months, is the early adopters who are out there traveling right now are going to be followed by the vast majority of citizens who the media has already dubbed what they call revenge spending, revenge on the pandemic. We're going to go out and do all those things that we haven't been able to do for the last year. And the reason that I'm talking about this is because, about a year ago, many of us were scouring the supermarkets for toilet paper, because what happens is that when disruptions occur, when supply and demand get out of sync, then scarcity occurs, price hikes occur, crazy behavior sometimes occur. And for those of you particularly holding vouchers, what I don't want to do is find you in a situation where you don't feel safe right now booking, which is understandable as we're still very early in the recovery. But lots and lots of other people are sitting on the sidelines. And when the floodgates open, we're suddenly going to have the reverse situation where it's going to be impossible to book, or at least impossible to book at a price point that most of us will be able to afford. And so keeping in mind that this bubble is out there, and I can't tell you whether it's 6 weeks away or 6 months away, but I can tell you that it's coming, and that there are still deals to be had, and the certainty that we'll be safe by the end of this year or in 2022 is very high. And so even if you're not ready to travel now, I strongly encourage you, think seriously about booking now. Lock in the rates, particularly because most of these travel organizations have significantly loosened their policies relative to change fees or rebookings. In some cases, the cruise industry, again, has been a leader in offering vouchers that are actually worth more than what you paid in your original booking. So just kind of my nerd moment to try and give you a little bit of insight to why I think there's a sense of urgency right now. So with this, what I'm going to do is try and get a little bit of a quick feedback. Hopefully all of you will see a poll in front of you, because I'm anxious to understand, for those of you who have thought about this, where do you want to go? What's your most desirable location for when you feel safe to travel again? So if you could take a moment and select that, we'll share the results here in just a moment.
So we can only select one, right?
You can only select one. Couple more seconds. All right. According to this, no one voted. Did the poll not work?
I voted.
Interesting. All right, so I'm gonna,
I have something on my screen, Keith, that gives the results.
well, excellent. Can you read the results to me since I can't see them?
Where do you want to go? Somewhere in the United States, 36%, Mexico or the Caribbean, 27%, international land trip, 27%, ocean or river cruise, 9%, others, 0. Did I go too
Excellent.
fast?
Well, I'm glad that it worked. I'm sorry I can't see it on my screen.
I can
Let me
repeat.
let me share with you. Whoops. Let me share with you the results of what Expedia has seen in search results. They obviously track where people are looking to go, and this comes from a poll, their top 10 from about 2 weeks ago. And I think it's instructive to see that on here, the vast majority of the destinations are still in the U.S., that many people are feeling safer traveling within the U.S. than internationally, or perhaps it just reflects the understanding that the international options aren't available just yet. When I included this slide, it was really to make the point of, in the stock market, there's an old adage of buy low and sell high. And I like to play the stock market, and sometimes I get lucky, but without the brilliance of Monday morning quarterbacking, it's almost impossible to ever know exactly where either the high or the low is. And what does this have to do with travel? Well, it has to do with kind of probably the most popular question that I get, which is, well, I want the best deal. And, you know, the best deal is kind of like buying low and selling high. At any given instant in time, I can certainly tell you what the best deal is. But I can also tell you, having been at this for a long time, that the various organizations understand that everyone wants the best deal, and they've all become incredibly creative at using supply and demand to adjust the price on a very dynamic basis. And so, for example, I track flights for people on a regular basis. And I've seen the price of a flight, a US-based flight, change in $100 in an hour. And so from the time that you ask me what the best deal is to the time when I book it, you know, if I'm lucky, I catch it at the right spot. If I'm unlucky, we catch it somewhere in the mid-range. The point being that as you think about traveling again, you can drive yourself crazy chasing the lowest price. You're far better off figuring out kind of what do you want to do, what can you afford to spend, and if you can find that price point, then that's a good deal. And because I fully expect prices are about to skyrocket, I believe that all of us want to be aware that waiting at this point in time is likely to cost us rather than save us. I also wanted to just highlight really quickly that searching for this kind of stuff is a lot easier than it used to be. That, you know, my website, if you haven't visited it recently, has a page devoted to nothing but the current best deals. And Dream Vacations, because it's such a large seller, routinely gets packages. For example, the one that's featured here is to Mexico, 4 nights starting at $333 per person. Now that's not including air, but that's not a bad deal for an all-inclusive resort. The other thing that I wanted to highlight is because I like to focus on groups, and because sometimes groups have a hard time deciding where they want to go or what tours they want to take, or how much they want to pay, or who they want to stay with, or any number of other questions. I have another program, which is I've created a site I call Savvy Senior, and it's specifically focused on group travel. And it has a whole bunch of tools designed to make group traveling easier and for helping groups organize their activities, make decisions, and stay informed about group consensus. And so there are lots of avenues out there for finding the best deals. And one of those that I'm a huge fan of is cruising. And so what I'd like to do is be quiet for a little bit, turn this over to Nancy, and let her share a little bit about how Celebrity, I think, has done a wonderful job of establishing a truly unique niche in the marketplace. And with that, I will turn it over to you, Nancy.
Well, thanks, Keith. And again, good morning, everybody. I'm going to talk to you for a little while about Celebrity Cruises. It is one of my favorite subjects, and anyone who knows me knows I can go on for hours. I promised Keith I wouldn't do that. So a little history of the ship I mentioned earlier, or of the company I mentioned earlier. Celebrity's been around for over 30 years. We actually launched the company back in 1990. I joined the company in 91. So I've seen a lot of what's gone on with the company. We do currently have 14 ships in 3 different series, and then the fleet that we have in the Galapagos. Celebrity Cruises is all about new luxury and what we can present to you guys so that you have the most amazing experience when you're on board our ships. Next slide, please. I didn't bother to list these, but I just wanted to let you know that we're very proud of the fact that we have earned a lot of awards. And this is just the awards in 19 and 20. And surprisingly, we've even gotten awards for 21. And considering we were only in the water for about 2.5 months, that's an amazing thing. Next slide, please. Today, what I'm going to do is focus on our newest series of ships, and that would be Celebrity Edge and Celebrity Apex. Celebrity Edge launched a couple of years ago, and Celebrity Apex actually launched in April of last year. So the poor thing hasn't even had a guest on board yet. But hopefully in the next few months, we'll see a change to that. Next slide, please. So just a few pictures from Celebrity Edge so you can kind of get an idea of what the ship looks like. Upper left-hand corner is the rooftop terrace up on the top deck of the ship. To the right of that is our beautiful and large outdoor pool. Bottom left is the central focus of the ship, and that is the plaza, and that's where our martini bar is. And then the bottom right is Eden. This is an area at the back ship that is 3 stories, all glass windows. There's a restaurant, there's a bar, there's entertainment that goes on, there's even a cafe on one deck. Just a great, beautiful ship, and I hope at some point you all do get to enjoy it. Next slide, please. There it is. So one of the things I wanted to highlight about Celebrity Edge and Apex is this new stateroom design. It's a first for the ocean cruise industry, and it's called an infinite veranda. So basically the veranda is part of the stateroom, which increases the openness of the stateroom. Then at such point, if you want to actually open everything up and enjoy your veranda, that upper glass portion of the window drops down, and that becomes your veranda. Now, say someone's in the stateroom, they still want to relax in bed, they don't want the noise. What they can do is there's a set of French doors that can be closed. The other good thing about the French doors is when you do open up that infinite veranda, if the French doors are open, it shuts off the AC in the stateroom. So you just want to know that if you want fresh air, perfect. If you still want to keep the cold air in your stateroom, you would just close those French doors so that all the cold air doesn't escape out of your stateroom. Next slide. The next few slides I'm going to show you are just different areas of the ship. One of the things that we have on our ship now is called Les Petits Chefs, and it is an animated dining experience. So everyone has it's a set menu. There are some alternates, but the animation is built to the set menu. But what it is we have Le Petit Chef who comes out and makes the appetizer. And once he's done, then the servers come out and put that exact same appetizer in front of everybody. And they go through the different courses. We also have Le Petit Chef and Friends, where you have 4 different chefs and they're competing to see who does the best job. Then to the right there was the Cosmopolitan. That's one of our 4 dining rooms on board the ship. And we also have 6 specialty dining venues. We have 5 complimentary dining venues. There's a lot to offer, but because I promised to keep this short, I didn't put everything in there. Next slide, please. This is one of the venues on the ship called the Club. There's different entertainment that goes on day and night. One of the really fun things that I've done is called silent disco. I don't know if any of you are familiar with it, but they hand out headsets and there's 3 different channels of music. So it's fun to watch everyone on the dance floor, but they're dancing to different music and different beats. So you're trying to figure out, okay, what's going on here? Luckily, the channels are colored. So if you hit a great song, you can point out to get your friend's attention, point out to them, do this to the headset. And they're like, oh, she's on red. And they switch their headset. It's a lot of fun. And then just a lot of other live entertainment, games during the day. Definitely a great venue on the ship. Next slide, please. Now, this is the only slide I have right now from the Apex. I was a little limited on those slides because, of course, COVID has restricted what we can do and what we can access. But this is just an image of what the theater looks like. With Celebrity Edge and Celebrity Apex, it's not your traditional theater anymore. You don't have the traditional stage with the curtains. There's no curtains. Everything is out there. There are some doorways in that screen in the back, excuse me, and where cast members can come out. They'll come through the theater itself as they are doing the different shows. It really is a great experience. Next slide, please. This is just another picture of Eden. But as you can see the upstairs area, the walkway that goes along the windows. You can see the dining area, and to the left is the second level. Again, to the right is a picture of some of the entertainment that goes on in the evening. It truly is an amazing experience. Next slide, please. Okay, one of my favorite areas on the ship, the spa. As you can see, it's just gorgeous. I don't know what else to put. We also have a full gym, but I didn't include that picture. But again, just you can see how beautifully designed the ships have been created. Next slide, please. This is the solarium pool. This is our adults only pool. There are a few hours, during the week where guests can bring their children in, but they do have to be escorted by adults. But otherwise, this is our adult area pool. Next slide, please. And then here is a beautiful nighttime image of our pool up on the top deck. Now, I don't know if you can really see it. There's about center of the picture, what kind of looks like a martini glass almost. That's actually one of the hot tubs. And they have a tremendous view because they're one deck above the pool deck. Next slide, please. And another picture of rooftop garden, this one in the evening. We also have a specialty restaurant up here, the Rooftop Grill. It features American cuisine like barbecue and steaks and stuff like that. Nightly entertainment, they do jazz under the stars. They have all kinds of games like giant Jenga and things like that that they do during the day. Next slide, please. And I would be remiss if I did not point out the retreat. Now, on Celebrity Cruises, the retreat is how we refer to all of our suite staterooms. And with the retreat, everything's included. You get what we call our indulge package. So you have the premium beverage package, the streaming Wi-Fi, of course, your tips, and then onboard credit. And onboard credit's based on the length of the cruise. Also with the retreat, and especially on Edge and Apex, sorry, you have a beautiful sun deck that is just exclusive to our retreat guest. You have Luminae, which is an exclusive restaurant for our suite guest. And there's also the retreat lounge. Again, a nice area, but it is exclusive to our retreat guest. Next slide, please. Another thing that Celebrity Cruises offers, besides our standard shore excursions that we offer, you can build your own shore excursion. If there's something in particular that you want to do, or you just want your own small private group doing it, you can do that with Celebrity Cruises. You don't just have to pick what's already, put together and in the book, per se. We have a lot of people that really enjoy doing the private journeys, or we do have, besides our regular shore excursions, we have our small group discoveries, which are shore excursions, but in smaller groups. Next slide. I'm just going to touch on a couple of destinations. Caribbean, we recently announced some new Caribbean deployment for Celebrity Edge. She was supposed to be in Europe this summer, but we changed our mind and decided to bring her into the Caribbean. So starting July 3rd, okay, fingers crossed, but starting July 3rd, she'll be doing Eastern and Western Caribbean. And these itineraries are in place through November. Next slide, please. I see it now coming. These are some of the Apex itineraries for 22 and 23 in the Caribbean. And again, this is just an overview. If there's anything in particular you're interested in, or you don't see it on the screen, definitely go to Keith. He can get you any information you need. He's amazing. We go all over the world. We go to multiple places in Europe, Greenland, Iceland. We go to South America. We have a cruise that goes down to Antarctica. We're in Australia, New Zealand, Asia. I just didn't really want to throw all that at you. So I kind of focused on these Caribbean itineraries. And then next slide, please. Some of our longer Caribbean itineraries. Southern Caribbean, the ABC Islands are super popular. Everyone loves the ABC Islands. Panama Canal in Southern Caribbean. Next slide, please. And then Europe, Scandinavia, Russia, the Norwegian fjords, Portugal and Spain, Israel and the Mediterranean. If you're interested in that cruise, it's booking up fast, so don't wait. Next slide, please. And then just some 2022 itineraries for Celebrity Edge. She has a new 7-night Italy and Greek islands. I've seen those itineraries, they're great. Italy, France, and Spain, Turkey and the Greek islands, and then just longer Mediterranean sailings, those specifically in the shoulder season. Next slide, please. Wouldn't you just love to be sitting off Santorini on this beautiful ship? I know I would. So now for the offer that I've put in place for you all today and for Keith. If you book any Celebrity cruise in the next month, you will receive a $100 onboard credit. And it doesn't have to be just Edge or Apex. It could be any of the ships that we have going, excluding the Galapagos, because with the Galapagos, it is a totally all-included product, so we don't have onboard credit on those ships. And then if you book any Edge, specifically the Celebrity Edge, and an infinite veranda stateroom like that one I was showing you in the presentation, you'll receive a $150 onboard credit. So you have from today to April 6th to make the booking, and it's sailing anytime in 21 or 22. So definitely, if you're not ready to sail this year, I get it. But look at 2022, because I can tell you, I've already seen the rates increasing because demand is picking up for 2022. So if you're thinking of sailing, I wouldn't take too long to make that reservation. Give Keith a call and take advantage of the pricing that's out there now, because especially once the ships are in the water, prices are going to skyrocket. Availability is going to decline quickly. You know, it may be you wait till November to book a cruise, and suddenly the only staterooms available are the very front of the ship or the very back of the ship. And when I say back, I mean the ones on the back side, not the very back. Those sell pretty quick too. But that's pretty much all I have for you today, because I didn't want to put you all to sleep before lunch. So Keith, back to you.
Nancy, thank you so much. I really appreciate you being with us today and sharing that.
You're so welcome.
You know, the Edge, I know you had to do this quickly, and the one thing that you didn't talk about that I just want to highlight for everyone is the Edge and the Apex both have a very unique feature that some of you may have seen on the ship, which is rather than the typical tender vessels that run up to the ship and then you have to kind of jump off the ship and board the tender, the side of the ship is effectively an elevator that goes up and down and provides a viewing platform during the day, a dining platform, and then lowers people down to the tenders to speed the boarding process to get to islands. It's quite a remarkable design.
Oh, I'm glad you mentioned that, Keith, because also our tenders are not your traditional tenders. They are actual launches. They're enclosed, air conditioned. The seating is theater style seating. And I mean, the seats, they fold down, the cushion is this thick. It's not your traditional sitting on a stadium, you know, board like and out in the elements. So thanks for reminding me about that, Keith.
Well, again, thank you, Nancy, and I hope you'll stay on for. We're going to go back and open up the mics and do a Q&A. But before we do that, if I can, what I'd like to do is, assuming that I can get this to work here. Vicki, are you still with me?
Yes.
Can you launch the second poll?
Yep.
Are you all able to see the second poll now?
I did.
And we'll give you just a little bit more time to open that up. And then Vicki, are you able to share the results?
Yep, it's going to close in a few seconds.
Okay.
Okay, when do you expect to start traveling again? I've already started traveling, 10%. Within the next 90 days, 10%. Later in 2021, 30%. Sometime in 2022, 50%. And other 0%.
Interesting. About equally divided, about 50-50 in terms of how we're breaking down. Thank you all for sharing that. Let me just quickly summarize before we jump into the Q&A, and that is, what I hope you take away from today's presentation is traveling is possible right now. It's just different, and it's different in some pretty substantial ways. So if you're going to travel now, just make sure you do the research, know what to expect, know what's open. You will find smaller crowds in almost all cases if you're traveling now, but you also will find certain things closed or unavailable. And so as long as you know what to expect, you can have a great experience. The other thing is, if you're going to travel now, stay flexible, because the rules keep changing, and from the time you plan till the time you go, you may discover that the model has changed a little bit. And last but not least, the thing I would encourage everyone, even if you don't want to travel now, if you've got travel vouchers, I strongly encourage, think about where you want to go in 2022 and get it booked while you still can get the locations, the accommodations, the flights that you want. So I haven't seen a lot of the questions come in over the chat line. The one that I do see has to do with, how do we know if the full cancellation refunds that are being offered right now are legit? And you know, that's a question that if the refunds are coming from any of the larger providers, then I wouldn't think you should have any concerns whatsoever. Almost all of them come with caveats. You know, most of the providers will give you somewhere between 12 and 24 months to redeem the vouchers. They don't leave them completely open-ended, but there have been relatively few vendors who have actually gone out of business. All of the vouchers that I've seen have been honored as exercised. And so if you've got a specific concern, why don't you contact me after this, and I'll be happy to research the company and give you kind of my estimate. But I think as long as you're getting these vouchers from organizations that are reputable providers in the industry, you shouldn't have any concerns about them being every bit as valid as, you know, your credit card or your other payment sources. All of you should be able to now unmute yourself. And so let me just ask you, and I'm getting some nice compliments in the chat box. Thank you, CS. What other questions do you have? Or what, if you don't have any questions, how can I make these presentations more valuable to you? Because I fully expect that travel is going to continue to evolve. And so probably every couple of months, I will plan to do an update just to refresh the information that's here, and always looking for suggestions for how to make it more useful.
Did you
Such
have any?
Such a polite group.
Such a quiet group.
It is. I'm amazed. I can't believe we answered all their questions, Nancy.
Me either.
I have a question.
Okay.
So for
Maria.
a first-time traveler, what destination should they go to during like post-COVID?
So, as you say, a first-time international traveler or a first-time traveler anywhere?
Anywhere, like never been on a plane.
Oh my goodness. And are you based in the Sacramento area?
No, Georgia.
Georgia. So the answer is, as a first-time traveler, I would encourage you to do something relatively close to home, but different from your normal experience. That I always want the first-time experience to be a great experience, but it can be a little bit overwhelming if you're not used to being on the road, particularly if you're looking to travel soon. From Georgia, if you're interested in the coast, obviously Florida has many tourist destinations. If you're looking for something a little bit more adventurous, there are some great places to the east in kind of more of a mountain escape. If you want to get on a longer flight, living on the West Coast, California, in my estimation, has some of the most densely populated tourist destinations you could imagine, but I'd encourage you to do that later in the year when more of the state is open. And this is exactly the kind of thing that I love to help people with. And so I would encourage you, give me a call later today or later this week, and I'll be happy to, learn a little bit more about what you enjoy, and then suggest some destinations that I think would be good for a first-time traveler.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. Oh. Yes. All right, so I have been advised that I needed to stop screen sharing so that we could see all of your lovely faces. And what about rail vacations? That's a great question. If you're not familiar with rail travel, particularly in America, Amtrak is the dominant provider for rail, and they actually do a beautiful job. They've got some destinations, particularly through the Grand Canyon and the national parks, that are just amazing. The packages that they offer tend to be a little bit more expensive than some of the beach vacations or the cruise vacations, but they have special arrangements with most of the national parks. So even when the national parks will show as being sold out, if you're a part of a rail package, their particular programs often will still have availability. They like Nancy was talking about, the custom tours that Celebrity can put together. Amtrak is very good at putting together custom packages. They will essentially get you on at the closest rail station and get you onto their more popular routes, and just include the portion of the fare from wherever you happen to be based to where the tour begins as a part of your package. We also have arrangements with the airlines where you can fly to one destination, for example, if you want to go cross country, visit Chicago, for example, and then fly back. And for all of you who had booked with me in Europe on the Rail Bookers package, Rail Bookers is simply the international version of the Amtrak package. And so Rail Bookers is fully capable of booking not only on the European rails, but also on Amtrak and also on the Canadian rail system.
So
Did I
why
answer
are
your
they
question?
not? Yeah, I have a question. So if they're so fantastic, why can't we get the refund?
All of these companies are kind of like other small businesses in that they're continuing to pay their employees, and they simply aren't in a financial position to give all the money back for the trips that got canceled. They are giving you 100% of your purchase on a future booking, and I wish we could have gotten all the cash back, but the time we booked your ticket, the contract explicitly stated that in the event that it were canceled, they would issue the refund, issue the travel credit, not the refund.
So how long is it for?
for 24 months from when it was canceled, which means we've got about a year and a couple of months left on it.
There's another question in the
Thank you.
chat, Keith.
Did I answer your question, Suzanne?
Yes, thank you.
Keith, or does somebody else have a question?
Yes.
Considering going back east on the rail bookers,
Mhm.
maybe take that Savannah, Charleston, or the fall colors next year, though.
Mhm.
But how open are they now? I mean, if we did something in 2021 with those packages, is Georgia having issues where they're closed to, because they had sites planned that you were supposed to go to and hotels planned and all that stuff, all-inclusive package. And then also going on bus too for part of it. Is that still available?
Let me deal with the various parts of this. The trains are operating, but they're typically operating on a slightly reduced schedule because passenger travel is down. They've implemented all of the new cleaning protocols, so they are socially distancing people. I think they've now returned to the dining car being available, but for a while they were doing meals in the staterooms or in the various segregated areas rather than letting people come to the dining areas. Hotels, by and large, have been open across most of the country. We've gone through a period in California where there was a period where the hotels were closed, but most of the rest of the country didn't close their hotels. And most of the hotels have also gone through some form of enhanced cleaning protocols, sanitation, those kinds of things. Restaurants very much depend on the local environment. There are areas where indoor dining is still not allowed. There are areas where indoor dining is wide open. And I'd have to look at the specific itinerary that you wanted to go on to be able to tell you sort of which of those you're going to encounter. Buses, in most cases, what they're doing is they're capacity controlling the buses to create more spacing in order to create safety within the buses. I would personally encourage everyone who's looking at traveling this year, get your vaccine if at all possible before going, and look to do the traveling probably 2 to 3 months later, because I fully expect that by then the rates will be significantly down and the discrepancy from state to state will also be less. So it won't be quite as complex to talk about a specific travel plan.
So it sounds like 2022 is probably better. I mean, you can book now, but to actually do it.
I would think that by this fall, if you've had your vaccine, then you should feel comfortable and that most places would be open and that you probably will not yet have the high traffic that you'll get in 2022. So in some senses, it would be a better experience because you'll be able to enjoy the destinations at reduced capacity.
There's some more questions in the chat.
Okay, let me see if I can. Cruises were highlighted today, perhaps other sessions in another industry, for example, packages and guided tours. I think that's a great suggestion. And I feel very fortunate that Nancy was able to join us and share what was going on with Celebrity. But I do understand that there are other options. And we've got some other great travel partners. And I will certainly, look to all of your guidance as to who we should invite next as a speaker. Maria asked, is Canada allowing tourists at this time? The short answer is no. Canada has been, in some regards, more restrictive than the United States. And as Nancy can certainly attest, they have created a lot of interesting jumping through hoops here in the last month or two, because Canada announced that they were not going to allow any cruise ships to dock in 2021 at their ports. And if you don't know this, there's kind of an older regulation that requires that cruise ships dock at a foreign port before they dock in Alaska, which effectively has all but curtailed the Alaskan cruising season this year. So Canada is right now not a place that you can go as an American tourist.
My understanding is I can't even go home unless if it was my parents who died. My brothers, relatives, I can't even go back there. So they're
Yeah.
really
Wow.
restrictive.
Yeah. Canada, New Zealand, Australia, there are a handful of countries around the world who have looked at sort of the U.S. Infection rate and simply decided it isn't safe to allow us to go there right now.
Mhm.
Are they open?
Are they over?
Yeah, I have a question. I'm sorry, I didn't, are the islands, like the Grand Cayman Islands, open for visitors at this time?
My recollection is that the Grand Caymans are not, but most of the islands around the Grand Caymans are. That, the Caribbean, each island has its own government, has its own regulations. In fact, let me see if I can screen share here for just a moment, if I may.
Yeah, but you have to go in Grand Cayman to get to Little Cayman.
I had actually put together a slide to try and highlight this. This happens to just talk to, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the islands. And it highlights how each one of them is slightly different in terms of its entry, its COVID testing, what happens on arrival, what their policy is on insurance. Some of them require that you take out their insurance before you travel there. So again, it very much is a case-by-case basis. I fully believe that over the next 3 to 6 months, all of this will normalize. We'll standardize on some vaccination passports. The countries will start to normalize in terms of their testing procedures and how they're going to deal with people who are vaccinated. But as of right now, you really have to say which island and when do you want to go, and then I can give you an answer.
Oh.
Keith,
All
did
right.
you
you.
were going to screen share something? We don't see it.
Oh, my apologies. I thought I did.
No.
I was talking about all this and you weren't seeing it.
Oh, I see,
Thank you.
okay.
Anguilla, Barbados.
The chart goes on for all the islands. I just didn't have space for you to be able to actually see anything and shrink it too small.
Yeah,
On
we
your
usually,
website. Keith, is this on your website, this page?
This page isn't, but I'm happy to share it with you if you're interested.
Yeah, could you, yeah, that would be good, because I can't, I mean, it's not all there, and it's too tiny for me to see on this.
Yeah, the information is actually fairly available. I get it from about 3 different sources, and because it updates so frequently that it's you have to kind of refresh it on an almost daily basis to keep track of what's going on.
Okay.
on, Keith, since, I was looking at Little Cayman, but if Grand Cayman, is not allowing people, you have to stop there and then get another flight. So if you can't fly into Grand Cayman, you're not going to get into Little Cayman or the Cayman Brock or whatever. There's 2 other islands as well.
So are you looking to go right now, or are you looking to go in a couple of months?
No, next year. It would be next year.
Oh, by next year, I don't expect there will be any issue whatsoever.
Okay. All right. Like February of next year?
February should be fine.
Thank you.
Keith, are you able to share the link to that in the chat?
Yeah, I will. I'll have to pull up the most current one. I just grabbed the one that screen shared the best. So there's actually a better one that I will share, and I'll copy it out to everyone who's on the conference today.
And there's another question in the chat. Somebody's asking about going to the Maldives.
Mm.
Oh, that's a great question. I honestly don't know what the status is in the Maldives. You're the first person who has asked about them, and because each of the destinations right now is different, I would have to look that one up. Given all the destinations that people are interested in, I've learned not to answer until I've researched, because I often get surprised by what I find. But so yes, if you want to, if you registered, I'll send you a specific email, or just shoot me an email and I'll send you that information after the conference today.
And when I have a question for Nancy, the cruise over at the for the Greek islands, you said there's something on in 2022, I think,
Yes.
or 2021. Where would we find where do we find some information on that? Just go on your
Well,
website.
You can reach out to Keith, because I'm sure through his website they have links to all of our destinations.
Okay.
Or you can just look on celebritycruises.com really quick to find a specific area and itinerary. But then I would definitely go back to Keith, because things are constantly changing. So he would be your best resource.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yours.
So just in the interest of time, I'd lost track and we've run over a little bit. I had promised all of you that we'd do a little bit of a prize. And so let me show you. Let me go back to screen share here. We've actually got.
Be alive for 2 or 3 years. We're going to go Greece.
Not there yet.
Not there yet. Okay.
Greece has got some problems right now today.
They still have problems. They've always had problems. This is on a ship.
How about now?
I see it.
All right.
Something. Third prize.
So third prize is for any of you who've traveled a lot. I certainly run into this about mid-trip. I'm struggling to figure out where to put my dirty and wet clothing, and so this is a travel laundry bag, which folds up to almost nothing.
What was that?
I said, right. You hand it to me.
So yes, when I'm traveling with Vicky, and I have an answer, but when I'm traveling alone, I don't. So let's. Can everyone see this spinning wheel here?
Mm-hmm.
So let's spin and see who's going to win that.
It makes me dizzy.
Spinning.
Now, I don't see him on the call. So if you're out there, speak up now, or I'm going to spin again. Because we did claim that this has to be someone on the call.
Oh.
So we're going to spin again. Pamela, congratulations.
Good.
Hey, Pam.
Excellent. All right. So now for second prize is, most of us now have USB gadgets as well as laptops and that kind of thing. And so I found this wonderful little travel cube. It's about the size of a tennis ball, fits in your suitcase, and makes it much easier to keep all of your electronic gadgets charged and ready to go while you're on the road. So let's figure out who's going to be our winner for that today. Now, by any chance, is Carl Lynn CS?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Well, congratulations, Cara.
Thank you.
Now, Cara, I will need your address at some point in order to send this to you. So just make sure that you send that to me so that I can send you your prize, okay?
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I'll send it with my other questions about the Maldives.
Great. Thank you so much. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And my final prize today is to help encourage all of you to actually book a trip, as I've been encouraging you all along. I'm giving away $100 towards anyone who books a trip.
Wow.
And the winner of that will be,
They have to be on phone. Okay.
my goodness, I can't even pronounce his name, but he's not here. So we're going to try again. I'm not sure this is so random. How about Samantha? Is Samantha on the phone? On the line? No, Samantha.
Going once, going twice.
Keith, you've got a name that isn't on there.
Okay, who's that?
Ariel. Oh, Nina isn't either.
Nina, she was.
So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and make this a little bit simpler. So Nina is not on here. How come Nina's not on here?
Yeah, how come she must have gotten
There's
off?
2 Pams.
You must have had,
There's 2 Pams, so maybe one of them.
Nina is
Oh,
there.
Pam and Pamela.
Yeah, I think I registered twice.
And Ariel, Ariel.
Okay.
Ken is not on there.
Ken's on there.
Yeah, I'm on
Is
it.
he? Oh, okay. Oh, there it is. Sorry.
Okay, so maybe
I was on
now,
there twice.
do we have Stephanie on the line? Don't see a Stephanie. All right, let's see if we can now get a real winner here. Pamela, you've had a very good day.
Oh, no. Spin it again. Spin it again. I've already won. Give somebody else a chance.
All right, Pamela, since you're kind enough to do that, I'm just going to take you right off the wheel. How about that?
How about that? That's good.
You can take me off too, Carolyn.
Yeah.
Ken, congratulations, Ken.
Yeah.
Put the brakes on.
All right, good. That's what they need to be convinced.
All right.
Oh, wow.
Everyone, I truly thank you. I apologize for running a little bit long today. I hope you found this to be valuable. And for all of you who have travel vouchers, I will try and reach out to you, or feel free to give me a call, because I want to make sure that we don't let those expire, or that you get the reservation that you're looking for. For those of you who have won a prize, make sure that I have your contact information so that I can get the prize to you. Nancy, thank you again for joining us today. It was a pleasure to have you with us, and all of you should have my contact information. I would encourage you, if you have any travel needs, please don't hesitate to give me a call. And I hope you'll join me on a future webinar that we're going to do probably in about 2 months. Thank you all.
All right. Great.
Have a
Thank
great
you.
day, everyone.
Bye, Vicki.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Pam.
Bye.